Well, hello friends, hello family, hello people who share a love for collectible hobbies. My name is Louie, KitchenTableTCG. Today I want to have a conversation about competition and the importance of competition in the marketplace. Particularly we talk about flesh and blood on this channel, but as you know, as many of you know, I have a long history, not long, I have a history, I have a pretty long history, I guess I'm pretty old. I have a history of board games, of Magic the Gathering, of Pokemon, of all these things, and I feel like I'm a pretty average human. And so before you get upset about anything I say in this video, I know there's probably people with way better market information than me in terms of like, you are somebody that runs a company and knows all about market research and that kind of thing. I'm just an average Joe who really likes board games, who really likes collecting things, who really likes playing card games. And this is my take on competition in the marketplace. So I want to start off first by saying I think that there's the importance of competition in the marketplace being that when a company does something wrong, sometimes they leave too much room for the next company to come in. And that's where competition in the marketplace is really important. And I think, in my personal opinion, is that one of the major success stories of Flesh and Blood in this past year, number one, is due to it being a phenomenal game. There's no doubt about that. The Flesh and Blood is a phenomenal game. That being said, the rate at which Flesh and Blood grew, I think, was a result of it being a phenomenal game, a really great game that's really fun to play, really fun to collect, really fun in general, but also the result of the other company, Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, whatever, in Flesh and in Magic the Gathering, just losing sight of what their customer wanted, and I think that Magic the Gathering. So my first thing is like the importance of competition in the marketplace is that as a consumer, when we are upset, competition allows us to move somewhere else. It allows us to take our joy and our desire and move it somewhere else. And I think Flesh and Blood, for a lot of people, if you look at like a trading card game or a collectible card game, fits all those things. It's a collectible game. It does both things. It's collectible and it's a game that's a lot of fun. And I think like where Magic the Gathering lost sight is that the game just stopped being the focus. When I was playing, when Battle Bond came out, I was so excited for this new way to play the game of drafting with my friends in this kind of dual-headed giant, whatever, like really fun way to play the game that was different and exciting and new and fun. And now today, like, draft boxes are the most allocated boxes for stores. It's like impossible for stores to get draft booster boxes, and which is like the number one best way to play the game, right? Like like the product that is for the players is completely like not available and not focused on, and kind of a secondary thought, as opposed to like the shiny cards that they're selling directly to market. I think for me, like the number one thing that I think of as an important part to like having competition in the marketplace, it is understanding that as a consumer, if a company makes too many mistakes, they leave enough room for another company to come in. And I really believe that that's part of what happened with Flesh and Blood's success. That Magic the Gathering left too big of a gap between the happiness of their players and their greed, and that as a result, a game like Flesh and Blood that values the players, values the game, values the collector, that's doing everything right, has tons more room to grow. And that's where you see this huge, quick growth of a game where it's like, yeah, the game is great and it should have been successful, but the rapid growth that it was successful, I think, is due to a lot of things. I don't want to take anything away from Legend Story Studios and James White. They are fantastic. They have done a phenomenal job. That being said, the door was blown open for them, and they took advantage of that, and that's beautiful and perfect and smart on their end. And so I think that's a thought too for me, is like, as a consumer, when a company leaves that much room, it's nice to know that another company can hop in. So where do we go? All right, so number two, I think this is the second one that the more that I've talked to stores, the more that I've understood this dynamic, and that is a product drought. Whereas if a new set comes out that people don't like, or if a some sort of supply issue suffices. We saw a ton of supply issues with Jumpstart. We saw a ton of supply issues with a lot of Magic Gathering products this year. We've seen supply issues in Flesh and Blood with Unlimited. Obviously, first edition stuff. We're talking about that a little bit right now. And the point being that when there is supply issues in one game, like if your focus is 100% on Flesh and Blood, and then we have a time, I'm talking about as an LGS, and then all of a sudden there's a time where the supply is limited. Well, as an LGS, it's going to be hard for you to make it work those couple months. As a player, though, too, if your store can't get unlimited product, what do you do? Like, how do you draft? Like, how do you build your decks? What do you do? And so having competition in the marketplaces opens it up to say, okay, well, if we can't get this product, if we can't do a draft this week, if we can't have fun in this way, well, maybe we could do this other thing. And I think that's a really important factor. Probably most important on that one is for the LGSs. Like, I think that's where stuff like these other card games like MetaZoo or even like board games comes into play, where it's like, if there's other ways to have revenue streams in an LGS, that allows you as an LGS to like not have to rely on having product from your one or two things that you do. So that's another thing I thought. All right, so then the last thing I thought, the importance of competition in the marketplace is to make the game better. And this is why I got Imperial Assault out, because I know I've been talking a lot about like player versus environment, and in my mind, like Flesh and Blood fits really well into a game like Imperial Assault. And so what I would love to see, and what we have seen in all of history of gaming and all this stuff, is developers utilizing concepts of games from other games into their own game. So in other words, when something is successful and players really like it, adapting it to fit in their own model or their own game. And that's really good. I think that's healthy. I think that's really good for all players. Like, if you are a strictly Magic the Gathering player, I think it's really healthy if the creators of Magic the Gathering are looking at other concepts that other TCGs like, that other players of other TCGs like, to include in their TCG. It's not necessarily stealing. It's not necessarily like false competition where it's just like you're trying to imitate. More I'm saying is like trying to take advantage of something that's working well so that your game can be better. And I think that's really good. And I hope that I know that all the current companies are doing that, looking at all the other games. I think there's a lot of mechanics from board games that can be played into some of these other stuff, a lot of crossover things that could happen, and that could be really cool. So I think that the importance of competition in the marketplace, the idea of like seeing what works in other games and having other healthy games, like if Magic the Gathering was the only card game that ever existed and nobody else tried to push the barriers, Magic the Gathering would never get better. If Flesh and Blood was the only thing there, it would never get better if other card games weren't pushing the barrier and weren't trying harder to do different things. So I think that's really important. The other side of this is like the competition not getting, like not seeing the competition and only doing what they're doing. Like, I would be very disappointed if Flesh and Blood just started making all these flashy secret layer things. But to be looking at the market and saying, wow, it seems like a lot of people are upset about secret layers. Maybe we shouldn't ever do something like that. Like, that's healthy. To be able to see the competition and the way that they are failing, and to be able to say, no, we don't want to go in this direction as a company because we see, it doesn't fit in our model. It doesn't fit in our business model or our ideals. But also, we don't like the way that it was received by the market too. So I don't know, those are my thoughts on like a competition. Honestly, this kind of conversation, I meant to start this out by talking about this conversation all stemmed by opening up MetaZoo last night. I got to open this first edition Kickstarter box of MetaZoo, and it was just a lot of fun to open. And I had just opened Strixhaven, and I was like extremely bored while I was opening Strixhaven. It just wasn't super enjoyable for me because I couldn't read the cards. I didn't know what the cards were. That being said, I didn't know what the cards were in MetaZoo, and I had a blast opening it. It was just different. And I was just thinking, like, man, why is it that I liked it so much more? And I think the reason that I liked it so much more is that it was unique and different. It wasn't all flashy. And so like I started thinking, like, why do other card games do the things that they do? And then I started thinking, man, like the importance of having all these games in the market. I mean, Munchkin's not doing much, but yeah, I'm saying like the importance of understanding where things are in the market. So that's my thoughts today. I hope you have a great day. Remember to be kind to the people around you. And I am so excited about Monarch. I'm so excited to have more of a regular schedule of content and to get back into that whole thing. Hope you're having a great day. Again, remember to be kind to the people around you.